Hi, I'm Paul Laporte, Product Marketing Manager here at Metalogix for SharePoint, Backup, and Archiving. Today we're going to talk a little bit about StoragePoint. StoragePoint is a critical product for our product line, and it's one that you can make a lot of money at as long as you understand how to best position it and sell it. For a little bit of background, StoragePoint has a very particular place in the SharePoint world. SharePoint has lots and lots of content, as you're aware, and that content all has to be stored someplace. And inside of SharePoint, it's stored in a SQL database and in a SQL server. That's well and good, but SQL Server was never meant to store the modern kinds of content that we find in SharePoint, things that are unstructured, documents, PowerPoint presentations, video files. All of these different things are referred to as unstructured content or blobs. And that content, which makes up to about 95% of a typical SharePoint deployment, is better suited to be stored elsewhere for a couple of reasons. Blobs don't work well in SQL. They're hindered by performance, and the storage architecture to support SQL and SAN type of storage is very costly. Now, you're allowed to move content, move those blobs out of SharePoint, and you can move them to a better place and move them into a storage place of your choosing. So it could be in a storage array network or SAN, NAS, the cloud, wherever you choose as an administrator that's most appropriate for the kind of content that you're storing. And you can have content that goes to many different places. Now, this is going to improve performance, and it's going to help your end users realize speeds that on upload and download that can be up to twice as fast. Now, this process of moving content out is called externalization. It's going to lower cost, and you don't really need that cost that's tied up into expensive hardware and SQL licenses. Now, Microsoft does this process today. There's a lot of confusion around this, but Microsoft does it today, and they externalize in Office 365. That's the only way that they've been able to achieve the performance to support millions of users. We're also doing something else with StoragePoint. We're eliminating limitations. So StoragePoint takes two of the limitations that people encounter most frequently. One is around file size. In 2013 and below, there was a 2 GB limit on file size. That meant that if you had video files or CAD drawings or other things that were larger, you couldn't include them within your SharePoint environment. We get rid of that limitation, and we let you put any kind of file, any size out there. Now, for 2016, they've bumped that limit up to 10 GB. But that doesn't mean you necessarily want to store larger documents, because it still impacts performance that much greater for your end users. So eliminating the file size allows you to include as much content within an organization as you wish to include within SharePoint, and it also helps you to achieve your performance goals no matter what the size of the documents. The second limitation that's really important is the database size. Microsoft has a recommended database size limit of 200 GB. And in a lot of research that I've done with people online over time, about half the people out there have one or more databases that are 500 GB or larger. So everybody's busting through this limit. We eliminate the issue associated with database recommended limits, because you can have a database that theoretically is many, many terabytes, because we're taking the large amount of it and of content and moving it outside of SharePoint. What's left is just the metadata, so it's small and tight, and this helps on backups. Your backup speeds are much faster. The potential loss, the data loss you have, recovery point objectives become that much smaller, and that really delivers a big benefit to the business. Now, one other area that's almost impossible to achieve otherwise is around the area of archiving, compliance, and governance. You have to move your content out of SharePoint if you want to archive it for the long term. If you want to do things like helping to do e-discoveries or legal holds, the whole area of compliance management, you have to move your content out of SQL Server, because SQL Server doesn't meet the requirements of being compliant, being able to have an authenticated snapshot of what the content looked like at any given time. So for these reasons and others, you should be positioning StoragePoint for any kind of company that has any kind of governance or regulatory issue that they have to adhere to. Anybody who has lots of content or large volumes of content. They'll love you for it because it will solve a lot of problems. It will save them money, allow them to deliver much better performance to end users. And if you think about it, end users fundamentally don't care about anything else other than how long does it take me to get my document or to save it once I'm done finished editing it. If they can see double the performance, you become a hero. The administrator becomes a hero. So this is a great way to help make your quota, and I hope that you sell lots of it.